Thank you and welcome everyone to the May 26th, May 26th, 2021 meeting of the Historic Resources and Museums Advisory Board. Glad to have you all. Do we have anyone from the public here tonight?
There's one person that's joined. Now, if you'd like to make a public comment, you can click the raise hand function. If you're joined via Zoom, if you called via phone, you click on *6 and I can unmute you and you can speak. It does not look like anyone has a comment to make.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to the approval of the minutes from our April 28th meeting. I think you should all have received the minutes in your packet.
Move approval.
I have one correction.
Yes, Alicia.
Yeah, on page 5, item 4, where it's the Program and Exhibits Committee, my name and Mark's were merged. So it says Alicia Turner. And so, yeah, so it should be Alicia Miguel.
Great, thank you for that, Kelly.
At first I was like, is there another Alicia? Yeah, but that's it. Otherwise, with that correction.
Move adoption with correction.
I'll second that.
Thank
All
you.
right, all approved. You may raise your hand or say aye. Okay, they are approved. Thank you. We will move on to the HRM program report. Troy?
Sure, I appreciate everybody being here as we are careening towards some sense of normalcy as it relates to the pandemic over this last year. I've been shocked. These seems like as short as 10 days ago, we were still in lockdown, and now it just seems like we've moved at lightning pace over the last week and a half with regards to at least our programs and operations and sort of loosenings of restrictions. So I hope that's a good thing. I'll sort of begin to just kind of revert around to the folks, the program managers with the different areas, and I may hold my comments until the PRGAB report. Did anyone hear from Jennifer as to her? Okay. I just wanted to give an update to everyone with regards to the budget. It was presented last week and is now a public document. So maybe I'll hold on to that till the PRGAB report.
I did get an email from Jennifer saying she was not going to be able to join us, but she sent a short report.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll start with Ernie. You're the first one I see up on the Hollywood Squares.
Well, hello, everybody. Good to see you guys this evening. A lot going on. It's nice to see people starting to come back downtown, and we see some more visitation numbers pop back up. We had about 515 folks at the museum last month, and about 87 at the Pope House. So I think since February, we've seen the Pope House still get a lot of attention. So we're seeing a lot of uptick in visitation. And I've got a couple things to report. Last month, we did a lot of walking tours. It was Raleigh History Month, so we really pitched in to try to make that a big deal. So we did several walking tours. I did my Civil War walking tour for downtown, and we also did one for Dix Park. We did our African-American history walking tours, and we also did one that we really talk about the Third Ward where the Pope House is located. So I've been trying to reach out and do more tours that sort of bring in the community around the Pope House. So those have been very successful, and we're going to keep doing those probably on a monthly basis, especially the Dr. Pope tours. We certainly have we still have our Kiwanis exhibit up. Many of you guys remember Nick Fountain. The Kiwanis have done an exhibit, and it's up in the museum for one more month, I think. And it's a great way for us to kind of show part of the community, have them come in and tell us who they were. And it's the 100th year anniversary of the Kiwanis. We were very happy to feature that exhibit. But truth be told, there's a video component that goes with it that plays a repeating video in the lobby of the museum, and all of my staff can repeat it verbatim after listening to it for 3 months. So they are hopefully very glad to see that exhibit leave pretty soon. But it's a great story, a way to shine some light on a great organization. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time, but we won an award. Did I mention that last time?
Tell.
You guys remember last year we had done some work with Dix Park and trying to uncover the enslaved community there. We traced one family back to Washington, D.C. We did a documentary. Well, the folks at RTN, unbeknownst to us, submitted that to an award. Now, it's not the Oscars and it's not Cannes, but it is the North Carolina City and County Communicators Award for special programming. Now, I didn't know if there was only 2 entries into the category, but we won second place. So, but we're very thrilled about that.
Good job.
So yeah, it's a little nice kudos for us. Coming up,
And
we
Ernie's
are-
being a little modest. He put in just an amazing amount of sweat equity into the research and the contextual framing of both the kind of the sleuthing of the finding and then the final product. So Ernie
Thank you,
deserves
Ernie.
all the kudos for that.
It
It was a labor of love.
It is.
Yeah,
a labor
there
of
you go.
love.
Very
But
good.
with our involvement in this project of the enslaved community, it has really reshaped how the Dix Park Conservancy sees that property and approaches historical content. So I hope to believe that we have really made a very deep impact on the future of the park by talking about the history of the park. So that project continues to grow with the genealogy of that enslaved community, and every day as new discoveries are being made. So we hopefully will see this as the tip of the iceberg for that project. And sort of related to that, we have a big holiday coming up for us next month. We are desperately trying to put together some programming for Juneteenth at the Pope House. We'll be doing a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 18th, 19th, and 20th at the Pope House. And it's an ambitious program. We've got a new Pope House manager. Many of you knew Wanda Cox Bailey, who worked at the Richard B. Harrison Library. She's come over to help us with that. Friday, we'll be doing a children's Juneteenth celebration with a noted book author, Kelly Starling Lyons. She's won a lot of awards. Saturday, we've got a professor from, I think, Livingstone College, who's going to be coming down doing some dramatic interpretations of notable Black figures through history. And the one thing that we're really excited about is that we are working with UNC to bring out Dr. Pope's father's Freedman papers for one day only back to the Pope House. So this is kind of a holy grail for us to get this back in for people to see.
Wow.
So we'll be doing a lot of that stuff on Saturday. I think Sunday will just be Juneteenth out, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Raleigh. So we're trying to figure out how can we get the attention of the community to come out and celebrate Juneteenth with us at the Pope House. I think that's about all I have. Any questions, you guys?
Remind me, Ernie, do you have a contact over at Shaw for that program?
At Shaw or UNC?
Shaw.
The woman that we've been working with is Dr. Valerie Johnson from Shaw. Yeah, Dr. Johnson, she's everywhere, and she's a great ambassador for the college. She's been in a number of Pope House listening sessions for us, and is just an incredible ambassador to work with. So we're trying to utilize her to help get some of the Shaw students and Shaw faculty to the Pope House next month.
And does the DRA know about that program yet?
I don't think so.
That would probably be David or Kyle. David especially. And he's the program side, right?
Yeah, David Moore.
Yeah. All right. Questions for the museum section, either Pope House Museum or City of Raleigh Museum? Lots of good work going on there. All right, great. Douglas, I see you on the screen. I don't know if you want to talk about sites.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Good to see your faces. I'll start with Moore Square this time. So Moore Square is very excited that tomorrow is the closing date for the assistant director position. I know Jenna in particular is excited about that. So once that closes tomorrow, it kind of kicks off phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4 of the hiring process, because it's kind of a long process. But we're hoping to have someone in, as fast as possible, but we may be looking at the fall at this point in time. I will ditto what Troy and Ernie have already said about things are starting to ramp up. I mean, it's obvious that people have been cooped up and they're ready to get out and do stuff. Moore Square has a number of programs, events planned already for the next few months. I know I've plugged it here before, but I'll say it again. We're doing the Moore Square Farmers Market every Sunday through the beginning of October. So I'll come out to that. It's 11 to 3 on Sundays. Doing a number of yoga and like fitness programs in the morning, kind of with various third-party vendors throughout the week at Moore Square. I can't remember the specific times off the top of my head, but I encourage you to go to the city website and click on the Moore Square program calendar and check those dates out and try it out. Still doing the Busker series at Moore Square at lunchtime on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And another cool thing we're doing is we're partnering with the Raleigh Night Market. And every third Thursday evening from now, well, from May, started last week, from May through November, we'll be doing a Raleigh Night Market. And this is a mix of vendors. Some of them are food vendors, some of them are artisans, but it's all local people and local stuff. And it was super cool to go out last week. It was a beautiful night, and it was active in a very positive way. So it was good to see a lot of happy people outside enjoying themselves on a Thursday night. So very active in many ways at Moore Square. Of course, Moore Square continues to face some challenges. One challenge this past weekend, as we noticed, Jenna walked into our storage space on Saturday morning and realized it had been broken into overnight. And we did have a little bit of damage done, a couple of items taken. So that was not a positive thing. But in the grand scale, I would say the silver lining is that we're seeing people coming back out and happy about the programs we're offering. Mordecai, very busy in its way as well. We're starting to see the regular guided tours really ticking back up. People obviously, especially on the weekends, people are out and wanting to utilize the park. Trolley tours are very active. We are, of course, running the regular Saturday tours, Saturday trolley tours out of Mordecai. I should have mentioned that we're doing trolley tours from Moore Square as well. In June, we'll be moving those tours to Sundays. But Mordecai offered a few different specialty themed trolley tours in the past month. May 23rd, they did a Jewish history trolley tour, which sold out. They also did another Civil War history trolley tour. And I say another because it was backed by popular demand. We ran that tour back in April, and people were really just banging down the door, trying to get on the trolley, and we just, due to capacity limits, we just couldn't do it. We ran it again in May, and it sold out again. So we're excited about that. In June, we're doing an LGBTQ history trolley.
Good.
Which is super cool, and it's the second one we did. We did the first one back in 2019, and it sold out. Obviously, we were not able to run that last year, but looking forward to doing that again next month. So some big things on the horizon. Any questions? I'm glad to try to answer them.
Fabulous.
I'm just curious, how has the trolley program gone so far since we've gone again with the kind of the sequencing and what's been the appetite for it?
I would say at Mordecai on Saturdays, the trolley tour it's going pretty well, and I think part of that is that people just know that the Mordecai is and has been a trolley stop. At Moore Square, there's still some growing pains there with the marketing and getting people to realize that we actually are running tours from there. My gut reaction is that when we shift those to Moore Square on Sundays rather than Thursdays and Fridays, I think we're going to start to see an uptick in ridership there, partially because it's going to coincide with Moore Square Market. So I think we're going to have an audience there that's ready to take it. But there's still a little figuring out there. Of course, we still have capacity limits on the trolley. But Josh and Jenna and I are talking right now about, the kind of the course for loosening those.
When you get a chance, Douglas, if you could check Teams chat, I have a time sensitive issue there for you.
Got it.
All right. Well, now there's the young budding historian. Get him in our junior docent program.
Or anthropologist,
Wow, touche.
Or he's just gonna decide he wants to be like a professional sports player or something like that. Far away from academia, which is totally cool too,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Other questions for sites? Great. Okay. Attractions. Sabrina, I see you, so we'll turn to you, and I'll pinch hit as necessary.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not seeing Scott here either, so I apologize if I'm a little all over the place in this one. I was not expecting to be the person reporting this evening, but I'll go ahead with it. So I would say our programming is kind of like everybody else is starting to get back on track to that. At least an approximation of what normal used to be. So the hardest point for us continues to be the staffing, which I know is nothing new to you guys at this point. So the rides that we are able to have open at any given time are limited. That continues to be our, I think, biggest prevention from a complete return to normal. We still have only one ride advertised as being operational on weekdays. And then if we can get another one open, we do try to. And then on the weekends, we have the train and the carousel at Pullen, both advertised as being operational. So last month we had the carousel centennial for the entire month of April. I know you received a little bit of a report on that last month. That went very well, was very successful. There were an estimated 1,000 participants over the course of the event, but it did run the entire month, so it was spread out over time. This month, for the first 3 weeks of the month, we held Letterland, which, as you all know, was held in a different format this year. So instead of being a one-day event, it was spread out among the different HRM sites and different sites across the city. So that, I think, was very successful, well received. I think we had some staff comments about how the parents were enjoying that there was a little more involved to the scavenger hunt this year, and certainly got a lot of visitorship and a lot of eyes on different sites that maybe those people had never seen before. Other than that, I guess the big news is that Alora has received a new offer that she could not turn down. So unfortunately, Alora will be leaving us. Friday is going to be her last day. So it'll be Scott and I holding down the fort until Matthew is back, hopefully in the beginning of August. So that's pretty much all I have. I do know that we're looking at and talking about the reopening of the John Chavis Memorial Park. Mm-hmm. So that is coming up on the horizon, and we'll need to meet with the community center director and staff over there to discuss with them what those operations are going to look like.
I have a question that could be sort of like comprehensive for all units. Are there any plans or hopes to do any live music at any? I know that was usually done through attractions, but often at various sites. And that was like one of my favorite things, one of the things I missed last summer, of course. And I don't know if we could try and do that under, I guess, under the current guidelines, but are there plans for such?
I can answer that for Moore Square.
Okay.
Well, with the Busker series on a much smaller scale, I mean, we do have live music, but we have a number of third-party event planners contacting us now hoping to do various events. One of the conversations we're having right now is about doing that over the summer. It's not confirmed yet, and it wouldn't necessarily be an event that we are producing, but it'll be an event at Moore Square. But yeah, I mean, I think that Moore Square in particular is interested in looking at opportunities moving forward.
But no summer concert series this year.
Yeah, okay.
But next summer, certainly.
Right. Yeah, I know we're in this transitional time of trying to figure things out.
But for instance, we're looking at doing a new improv series over at Pullen.
Cool.
This summer. We're looking right now at this festival that Douglas referred to over at Moore Square, a live music festival at Moore Square, not produced by us, but by a third party. And so there's kind of right now it's one-offs, not a program like the summer concert series traditionally has been. I just think, some of that is just a product of how quickly this has moved. I mean, a month ago, we were just still under these 25 and 50 restrictions, and things like that just take a little more planning, even for ones that we've done for a number of years. If nothing else, just the vendors that we use, either have other commitments or just weren't at that point willing to commit. So
has HRM ever done a fall concert series? Because it's warm for so long that
we
I'll
have.
go outside in November for.
It's been a number of years now, but at Mordecai we sponsored both a fall and a spring concert series. We called it Music on the Porch. And we did it. We produced it. However, full disclosure, we had a gentleman that we retained on a contract basis that essentially did all of the legwork. We just split proceeds. So from a staffing perspective, it was super easy. Well, I don't know. It depends on which staff you ask, because he could be a real horse's rear. So if, depending on how that worked out that evening, but Doug, were you around for Music on the Porch, or was that at the tail end of your?
For about a year. I mean, I think that they probably, and the reason we stopped is because they wanted to stop doing Music on the Porch. They were,
Guy moved at that point, and
it was nothing to do with. We liked it, but yeah, that was going on about a year after I started. So I think 2016, 2015 is about the time it ended. Yep.
And we came pretty close when William was with Pinecone. We came pretty close to committing to another American Roots music series over at Fletcher. But then when he went to Town and Cary, that's been 2 years ago now, that kind of fizzled. And so no, we really, honestly, we're open to it. We're just not music producers. And at the end of the day, that's, you kind of have to have that manager person that, knows the acts, knows the talent, knows the business, can do the bookings. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
I might catch up with Guy.
What's that?
I might catch up with Guy because I was.
Do you remember Guy, Mark? Guy Capriola?
Yeah. Well,
where is he now? Is he still in the county?
He moved out of Mordecai, and I think he's at 5 Points now. And I think that was part of the reason why he decided that he couldn't just handle this anymore. So.
Well, he started the food truck rodeo in downtown Raleigh. That was one of my first. He reached out to me in 2012, and so for a couple of years he moved from the music scene into the food truck, and we got him set up downtown for the food truck rodeo, and then that kind of, so any event. Yeah, he is a force of nature.
Yeah, well, he can make things happen. So maybe I'll see if he's interested in maybe doing a reunion show of some variety.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. You never know. Yeah, but that was it. It was Guy did all that. Yeah.
How have the conversations with the third parties so far about live music been? Like, you think they're going well? Are you excited about the potential?
Yeah, I think we're excited about it. I mean, I think there's a lot of components to it. Just kind of, as when the conversation started, we had full guidelines in place, and then they continuously are loosened up and changed. So it's been a little challenging just trying to navigate the conversation a little bit. But I think, no, I mean, I think staff is very excited about the possibility and wants to see, and thinks these are positive possibilities. We haven't ironed everything out yet, and it's not, you know, necessarily, plans are not in place yet.
Right.
I'm encouraged by it.
Some of it is they have to be willing to agree to be a vendor. You know, the city has a pretty detailed procedure and process for how you get identified to work with us. And so, you know, that can at times be a pretty high fence for folks to work with us, either through insurance requirements or safety protocol. I mean, they're all good things, but they at times when we look to the, you know, our friends in the private sector, they may not quite have the depth in their organization to meet some of that criteria. Hey.
You're still muted, Jenna.
Oh,
You know what's funny, Jenna, or if you're on your work computer, and I don't know if you have a plan B or not, but I have not been able to get this interface to work on my work computer. I've had to do it on my personal computer. For whatever reason, the audio doesn't work. In any event, for what that's worth in this time and space, you could just sign.
poor thing.
But, you know, we're always open to that. I mean, to me, that conversation is a perfect conversation through program and exhibit committee, you know, to initiate that. That was largely how we did the LATA events from a couple of years ago. I mean, that was born out of the work from this group. So we are certainly open to any of those, any programs or activities. You know, we're generally in the yes column. We just try and figure out how to make it work. Except today, the thing I looked at, we've got a naming and memorials process sort of matriculating right now. Apparently, if it's alcohol or any of what we in Alabama used to refer to as the sin taxes, then you're out. All right, other questions for attractions? Right, okay. Well, I will hold off on the, I have the numbers. I'll just throw them up just for the sake of folks seeing them, but it came in your packet.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about any of them, we're certainly willing and able to, but you know, sometimes it's this can get a little dense. You can see numbers are starting to come up again. Revenue is starting to come up again. Programs are starting again. Sorry, I'm not trying to switch too quickly, but volunteers are starting again. So those are good things. So I would encourage you to take a look at that report when you're able. And the budget is quite a few pages, Claire, so I'll hold off till the PRGB report. I'm assuming Jennifer was going to talk about that tonight since it came out and impacted us.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for staff program report? Any questions for anyone? All right, if not, we will move on to old business. And our first item on old business is the Raleigh television broadcast. And I think, Douglas, are you going to report on that?
Yeah, I can speak about that. So y'all had asked us a few months ago to explore the possibility of having RTN, Raleigh Television Network, to live stream this meeting. And what we found out through RTN is they are no longer taking on new requests at this point in time to live stream. However, they are happy to rebroadcast this meeting. So what we will do, because whether you know it or not, you're being recorded right now. So what we'll do is every Thursday morning after the board meeting, I will grab the video file and I will share that with RTN, and then they will upload that to their YouTube for sure, and possibly other streaming platforms. And so the plan is, as long as everyone's on board, to start with this meeting tomorrow morning, we'll launch the process. So if there's no
Okay,
objection,
thank
to that,
you.
I will work with RTN tomorrow to do that.
Okay, any questions, comments for Douglas about this?
Do we need to have any like dress code or lighting or any video requirements?
Hair
Makeup?
and makeup.
They
Yeah.
did not provide that kind of instruction to me.
Tim's only saying that because he does this professionally.
But, yeah.
No visible snacking during the meeting.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
think
I'm
just,
concerned
you
about.
know, just being aware that you're being recorded and the world can see you once you're on YouTube, you know, depends what you're comfortable with. But yeah, the world will be able to see you.
I'll finish my cookie really fast.
Is everyone comfortable with this moving forward tomorrow morning?
Sure.
And Claire, this did come, I can't even remember at what point in time, from community engagement.
Right.
So, and thank you, Douglas.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Other old business is the report on the study about our merger with the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board. And I think Troy was going to report on that. He did send out the correspondence and information that went to City Council.
Well, in the same vein as the wheels of government move, albeit slowly, this is in that category. As you know, we as a board recommended back in December, I believe, that the two bodies remain separate, and that the do pursue some intentionality behind meeting either programmatically or from a communicative standpoint, but just to intentionally try and work more together, but to keep the boards apart organizationally. And that recommendation went to council. And so just to kind of put a bow on all that, I'll share screen again here real quickly. Through several iterations of language and negotiation. Of course, I said there's the letter that was shared. It did go to council as a formal action, as you can see, on April 29th. And council actually voted on it at their May 18th meeting to keep our two boards apart and to work towards program connections. So that started as in some ways just kind of maybe a misunderstanding last year between maybe some folks on council and some folks with the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board. But I don't think it was a bad exercise to talk through the potential and the possibility of our boards, if nothing else, working more closely together. There's quite a bit of synergy between both what they're responsible for advising as well as what we are. So I just wanted to kind of, I guess, close the loop on that piece of business now, almost 1 year later. Any questions about the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board, Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board, possible merger? Okay.
Thank you, Troy. And
Sure.
as he mentioned, our community engagement committee worked closely with Cemetery Advisory Board, and they do plan on doing things together in the
Mhm.
future when we can. So that will be moving on. All
Claire?
right, moving. Oh, yes,
Oh,
Esther.
The first example of that, they were very intrigued with our volunteer recognition. So as it appears that may happen, we will be including them and perhaps recognizing some of their volunteers. So
Wonderful.
that's in the works.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to new business, we just have one item this evening, and that is to present our officer slate. We vote on our new officers, the chair, the vice chair, and chair of nominating committee in July. So we typically present that slate in June to let you know that we will be voting in July. Fred, as chair of our nominating committee, was not here tonight, but Esther, if you could present that slate for us, please.
Well, I hope nobody will be too disappointed, but we're into recycling on this board. And so Claire has graciously agreed to serve again as chair, and I'm thrilled to be the vice chair or chair-elect. And then shall I go ahead with the other position? In case you're wondering what your career path is on this board, you just need to serve on a committee and then you get to be chair of it. So I'm delighted that Dr. McGill, who's been on the board, the nominating committee, I am now formally nominating her to be the chair. Our tradition is that the immediate past chair is the chair of this committee, but we keep bumping up against term limits. Right. So Alicia's been a member of the committee for a couple of years and has agreed to chair the committee. Thank heavens.
And so we will be voting next month on those board members officially.
And Claire, we don't stand on ceremony. If you have time and interest and passion in assuming a leadership role, do not be shy, because otherwise we'll come for you. So,
volunteers are always encouraged.
Absolutely.
Great. Any questions about that? Then we can move on to our committee
So just
report.
real quick point of business. So that's with the slate. I know just a little point of clarification. Typically, we stand them in May, we vote them in June, and we seat them in July. Yeah.
Thank you, Troy.
So for tonight, if everyone's comfortable with that slate, what we would generally do is entertain a motion in a second. And then they would be on the quote unquote ballot in June.
Thank you, Troy.
A motion to approve by acclamation.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent, thank you. So we will present that slate next month for voting. Thank you, Troy. We can move on to our committee reports. Edna was not able to join us tonight, but I know the collections committee did not meet and plan to have the next meeting in July. Community engagement.
Hoping to meet in June with good news and planning a party.
Thank you. Nominating, we've already heard what the nominating committee did, and so programs, exhibits. Mark?
I couldn't chair the meeting. I was out. I think Alicia was there, maybe has some notes. Or Chip.
We didn't, you mean for this, like this month? I mean, we would have met right before the meeting tonight and we didn't end up meeting.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was talking about
Right.
last month. Yeah, correct. We did not meet.
Okay. The executive committee met last Friday morning via Zoom and went over the agenda for tonight and the minutes. Then I will report on the Friends of City of Raleigh Museum. Monthly board meeting was last Wednesday night. and several things happening. As I mentioned, they sent out solicitation letters asking for donations for the museum, and they've been getting a fairly positive response on that. Have had a fair number of small donations and a $10,000 grant from the A.J. Fletcher Foundation. So that was very exciting. Also, they're learning how many people on the list are no longer where they were. So a good number of returns, and that's nice to be able to clean up membership lists. The executive board has reached out to Janet Cowell and the Dix Conservancy to talk about the future of the museum and to broach the conversation about a potential move of the museum to the Dix campus at some point. And so I think that seems to be a very positive conversation that is starting. And I know that's something that will be ongoing for quite a while. And the other thing is the board is very excited to have a live in-person program coming up. Cafe Luna, as part of reaching out for this from the solicitation letter, has asked to partner in a program. So they are going to have at the restaurant a dinner scheduled, I believe it's going to be June 29th. And it's going to be in conjunction with the Women of Change exhibit. The board is now accepting nominations for women who are in Raleigh or in the Raleigh area who you have been influenced by, who you would like to nominate. And I think Troy just put up that link where you can do the nomination, and they will, the board members will choose the winners and they will be honored at this dinner. So that's going to be June 29th at 6:30. And also probably at 5 o'clock, I think the details are not firm yet, there's going to be a pre-dinner reception at the museum that will be open to people even if you're not attending the dinner. So try to get people in to see the exhibit. Any questions about that? Ernie, you have any additional information you want to add to that?
I just think to take a look at nominating those women in the community who really are making change and moving the needle. I think that's the best thing that the board can do tonight is take a look at that list and really put some thought into those women who need to be recognized, because it's sort of certainly the essence of this exhibit. So we'd love to see you guys come up with.
Thank you. Any questions about Friends of the City of Raleigh Museum? Then we'll move on to the PRGAB report. Jennifer couldn't join us tonight, but Troy has got some things to share.
Yes, let me know if I'm doing this correctly, but I'm going to try and share my screen again. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Last week at council, the staff recommended, the council received the staff recommended budget for next fiscal year, FY22. And of course, our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. And overall, it has a lot of really positive outcomes for us, both in the department as well as with us within the program, as you shall see. If I can get this to behave, is that, aha. So we are seeing improved revenues, as you can see, even through our program that we shared earlier. Even though we're a drop in the bucket in the overall city revenue, we are seeing a less of a gap between expenditures and revenues, obviously, than we've had over this previous year. And we believe that that's going to continue to show positive progression as we continue to come out of this pandemic. One of the things that we had to done, which my staff had felt acutely over this last year, is we had to maintain what we call a vacancy credit of 4%, meaning that we could not request to fill a position until we met a 4% overage cap on the personnel assigned in our workforce. So for instance, when our last employee just in my program area left in January, it took us about 2.5 months to meet that 4% threshold before we were approved to repost that position. That vacancy credit in the new fiscal year is going back to 1%, which is where it has historically been. So it will be much easier, much quicker for us to backfill positions as we move forward in this next fiscal year, which will be awesome. One of the things that from our impending vacancy, Poland staff are in some ways going to be a beneficiary of this because July 1st is coming pretty quickly. And so they will not have to wait almost 3 months before we can fill that vacancy there, which will be nice. You can see we are projecting in this next year a 5.8% overall growth in our general operating budget, what we call the mill budget. We are this bottom right section, leisure services, which represents 7% of the overall city budget. You can see far and above the largest outlay we have is for our capital and debt service for previous bond issues, CIP, any of that, some of that larger debt service that we are bonded to each year. We are projecting within our general fund a 5.43.6 million revenue in the overall budget. So that represents a 7.1% growth, which is going to be trending more towards actually over the last couple of years. We're projecting a higher increase in revenue as people tend to get out and get engaged in the community. I don't know if you visited a Lowe's or a Home Depot recently or any of our shopping centers, tried to buy gas. All of those efforts go into government coffers, and ours is part of that recovery as well. You can see next year we are recommending a 1.78% property tax increase to offset some of these additional services that we are proposing. And I can speak to what we're asking for in the PRCR budget, but you would probably need to refer to the larger document if you're interested in what's going on in transportation or public service or some of the other elements or departments around the city. So that would, for you Raleigh residents, that would equate to a 0.37 increase per $100 of your property tax. You can see just our revenue trend as we've just over the years. You can see even with COVID, this last fiscal year, FY20 through this point in FY21, you can see the dip, but overall, it's we've trended up all these years, both in sales tax and property tax and revenue recovery, which speaks to the health and the vitality of why we all like to call Wake County home. You can see a couple of increases as well in our enterprise accounts. Those of you that use Raleigh utilities with water, there's also a proposed increase with that, as well as solid waste. So you will see that represented in your bill starting next year, provided council adopts the budget. Some of the things that we did this year were to put out a community surveys, which reflect some of these budget choices that we make. organizational priorities that we establish. And one of the things that we got feedback from was that overall quality of life was very high, quality of service was high, but the overall value was not rated as highly. And so we are looking collectively as an organization to try and increase that idea of value for the services that we're providing. This next year, there are going to be raises for staff for the first time in a couple of years, which is a nice thing. You can see that there are anywhere from 1% to 5%, depending on where you fall in our pay plan and where you rate in our merit system. We're also increasing what we are paying as our minimum working wage. We adopted 2 years ago a living wage minimum. And so anybody in our workforce that is a full-time equivalent, if you are making below $36,052 as of July 1st, you will be making that. And it also has a couple of other sort of benefit pieces, as well as a police and fire, a safety equity piece. Employee benefits, y'all probably aren't. Well, if you're interested in that, yeah, I can share this slideshow. It's also on the city's website. Council priorities, you can see here, they're listed through this next budget with what we're hoping to achieve. And then some of the choices that we're making with some one-time investments, as well as ongoing with personnel and staff. We are elevating the Division of Acute Community Engagement to a department. So for those that have worked with that group, that probably is meaningful for you, but in essence, it's what we have was community services. Within community service was a division of engagement, and that's being elevated to a department level enterprise with a couple of new positions. Pedestrian and bicycle improvements. There's going to be a staff person for the first time, specifically tasked with managing that program. Going to add a street sweeper, as well as about $4 million for bike infrastructure improvements. Equity initiatives, they're also elevating the equity inclusion division to a department level enterprise, and adding 3 new positions to support that, as well as funding a new comprehensive equity plan for the city. We're getting to Parks and Rec, I promise. Housing, there will be additional investment in housing, affordable housing this next year identified in this budget. Most of it coming from the affordable housing bond that was passed this last year, the 2020 bond, as well as an additional outlay of just general fund dollars of $6.3 million. So a significant investment in affordable housing. Well, I guess that's a matter of perspective, right? But you know, but that is what is being proposed. There is also a little bit of organizational enhancement for folks that are going to start a new strategy and innovation office, as well as a 4th assistant city manager that will be created to support as more of an organizational upfit. Greenway Safety was identified as a high priority.
Yep.
I think we were talking about it last month's meeting, the unfortunate death that occurred on one of our greenways this last year. And, you know, that's something that obviously is reflects poorly on us, as well as just a personal tragedy that we are hoping to try and avoid as we move forward as best we can. So to that end, we're going to be dedicating additional dollars and resources to our greenway, with maybe the most important enhancement being that RPD is going to get a dedicated unit for Greenway Enforcement. So for the first time, we will have 7 sworn officers whose only job is to protect and steward our greenway system. We in our department are talking about creating a not a sworn enforcement program, but to create an ambassador program that would work in tandem with this sworn initiative with RPD to further provide that level of kind of safety and oversight to our greenway system. Of course, there's going to be some new fire safety enhancements with new positions in the fire department. And then with bonds through our 2014 Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources bond, the last issue we supported, we still have 6 positions that remained unfunded. Those will be funded in this budget cycle, with maybe the one that impacts our program most closely, the John Chavis Memorial Park, will get a program position there. So that program will now have 3 full-time employees associated with that operation. Of course, the reflects these priorities from community survey that we talked about, with pace of growth, affordable housing, and transportation being sort of high priority items. With us, some of the big changes, we did talk about this last month, that this was proposed, but council does now have in front of them to adopt a 1 cent property tax increase. So that's just our department of that 1.38 proposed increase. We would be receiving the lion's share of that. That would be 1 cent of it. And it would begin to generate $7.6 million in annual CIP funding. And just to let you know how transformative that is for us, we typically get about $500,000 in CIP funding every year. And that's only in years where we've been able to, I guess, afford it, for lack of a better word. CIP, what we call capital improvement. Any of our projects that are greater than $25,000 are in what we call capital improvement funding. Anything greater than $100,000 generally goes into bond funding. That's not a hard number, but that just to give you an idea of the scope of projects. And so to go from, in good years, $500,000 to every year $7.6 million is a really transformative piece for us moving forward. So a lot of these, and I'll be perfectly honest, I mean, it's primarily, we call it capital improvement, but it should be called deferred maintenance, because it's really a lot of, have you seen the Tucker House recently? I mean, it's really a lot of sort of infrastructure pieces that that we just have not been able to manage over the years. We're very, very good in government of creating new and doing programs and events and services, but maybe not as adept at stewarding things, buildings, parks, all of those things that do degrade and depreciate over time. We just, we're not generally able to get the dollars, dedicated dollars for that. So we're very, very excited for it. As you can imagine, just in our program area, we probably have $7.5 million worth of projects. Tucker House being 1.5 million of it. So, you know, I'm not going to tell you that we're going to get all of that every year, but I am going to tell you that we're going to be at the table arguing for it. And I think it puts us in a much better position to, over time, be able to better manage our infrastructure. You may have noticed number 2 may have jumped out on you. I'm sure in the reinvestment into the system. I know as disappointed as Ernie was that we pended the landscape project, he might be surprised to see that the $455,000 that he thought was scoped at Pope House is now $1 million at Pope House. And again, that's a transformative number for that program and for that operation. And so it's long overdue, and it certainly is going to be a welcome addition to our program area as we begin to scope out a lot of these plans we've had. We just haven't had the dollars to implement them. So I think this will be a very, very, very comprehensive stroke on that facility. So very exciting. Of course, transportation with the bonds money that will be identified from the transportation bond will be released for use in this budget, which see the projects there with different road and infrastructure improvements. Weight transit plan. I'm not as familiar with that. I'm in favor of transit generally. So there you go. Budget public hearings will begin on June 1st next week. I believe that is Tuesday. I may not have the calendar right, but I believe it's Tuesday. And you know, I would encourage you to listen in to the council next week, and if not, their work sessions begin June 7th. And typically the way this works is there may be some tweaking of the budget. There's a couple of R items that are still in the maybe category. So there might, there's some tweaking of the budgets that might come between now and July 1st. But as a local government, we have to adopt a balanced budget prior to July 1st. So in my time, these things get adopted by council usually sometime after June 7th. It could even be at the June 7th meeting, but will most certainly be adopted prior to July 1st. Sorry, I know that was a lot of information.
Thank you. Any questions for Troy about the budget? So Troy, is the feeling that council is positively thinking about this 1 cent for parks?
Yes.
Oh,
Good.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we have or I'm sorry.
the votes are there.
Yes.
Good. All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is upcoming events, and those were sent to you, and I think staff has highlighted some of the things coming up. We also have committee meetings listed. Is there any other business to be brought before us?
Just make one addition to the upcoming events. In about an hour and a half, we'll be having an event for the museum. You can go to the Friends of the City of Raleigh Museum webpage and sign up for tonight. We are doing a program called Raleigh Solved. And we'll be talking with Ian Dunn, who's the state photo archivist, on some of the crazy pictures he's found in the archives of how he solved where they are. So it's gonna be a good program. So if you guys are not sick of Zooming, join us tonight at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Ernie. And that is a free program.
It is.
All right. Move, we adjourn.
I have one question before we adjourn.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Audrey.
It's okay. It's okay. It's about meeting times. Now that things are opening back up and we can probably start resuming meeting in person, is the board open to, since we found out we do pretty good on Zoom, are we going back to the old way of just totally meeting back in person, or can we do a combination that goes for board meeting and committee meeting? So just want to throw that out there for question.
I think that's something we can discuss now. I don't know that we could do combination meetings. Could we, Troy?
I'm not sure. The one thing that I know is that we have been operating under a special dispensation from the state legislature as it relates to the open meetings law, which this board has to meet the standard. And so I know the local government association has petitioned the state to allow for some modification, a permanent modification of that law that would enable us now to meet virtually in some iteration, either in committee structure or as the board, but I don't know where that stands. We obviously just have to comply with the law, which is one reason it took us a while to get started back this past spring, is because we actually had to have the state okay us to meet in this, not just us Raleigh, but Wake County and City of Asheville, and I mean, you name it, any local government organization. Because we basically operate off charter from the state. And so I don't know where that stands. So from staff's perspective, we serve at your pleasure, whatever y'all want to do. But ultimately, there may be a legal requirement that we have to meet a certain way, which is the reason we used to meet in person. And when there were ever 3 of us, we had to,
Right.
schedule a meeting. I mean, there was criteria for us.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll-
thanks, Troy.
And I know that's not a great answer right now. For right now, we're fine doing what we're doing.
Okay.
And we can do this until we're told differently. And in terms of, meeting in person or meeting virtually, we could probably do them simultaneously, but it would be a little trickier. I guess if we did, from staff's perspective, and this is just our perspective, we would rather it be one or the other. But having said that, I mean, we'll make it work.
I think that's something we as a board can look into as we get into the summer and see where COVID is and all of that. Anything else to be brought before us? Well, if not, then I thank you all, and I think we are adjourned.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Bye.
See you next time.